righty, well, welcome back, everybody, to the Sawyer On-Water Podcast. We're out here on the beautiful Rogue River once again, a nice sunny morning, and it is going to get a bit hot. I think we're going to hit about 104 degrees today, so we're pretty happy to be out on the river. And today we are continuing on with our guide series, and our guide series basically is trying to really just give you a little insight to the life of guides and outfitters, and all the glory, but also sharing some of the trials and tribulations. And one of the things that we try to do is just kind of focus on some of the stories and some of the experiences that various guides have had, and hopefully that helps you along your journey. And today I'm joined by Dustin. I'm going to turn it over to him to kind of introduce what he's up to at the moment, and then we'll kick it off from there.
Hey there, I'm Dustin Paul, owner of North Umpqua Outfitters. My wife Tony and I bought it 2 years ago. We're just almost finishing our second season up here. Running whitewater on segments 1 and 2 of the North Umpqua mostly. We started up a winter steelhead fishing program this last winter, and we're just continuing to build the business now.
Nice. And so for several years, you were commercial guiding for various outfitters. I know the latest that you were guiding was for Noah's River Adventures.
Yep.
Is that where you started doing your commercial guiding, or did you guide for other folks prior to that?
So before that, I was guiding, but I had never worked for anybody that was a commercial operation. So Noah's was my first commercial outfitter that I actually worked with.
Gotcha.
And it was my first experience into commercial outfitting, and especially multi-day stuff. It had just been day trips up until then. And I worked for Noah's for 7 or 8 years, and it started from Wounded Warrior Project Odyssey.
Gotcha.
They helped me put on a trip, and then called me and kind of said, hey, why don't you come work for us too? And that was the start of a really good relationship with Noah's.
And so prior to that, had you just been doing trips like with different groups and like clubs and that kind of thing?
I was doing, it was all about the veterans for me. That's kind of what got me started with putting trips on, with wanting to guide trips.
Right.
And so in the beginning, it was, a lot of Wounded Warrior Project stuff. We did, some multi-day trips up on the Mackenzie, and it was mostly about getting veterans out. And then I started trying to just share the road with veterans, and it was never really a money thing. It was about just taking veterans out and showing them what I got out of it.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, so that's awesome. So that basically pretty much got you a conduit, and you started sharing that conduit with other veterans.
Yeah.
And when did you first get into getting on the river as a veteran program that really kind of you started seeing it? I mean, obviously, when was like your first trip that you did that you realized something happened with you?
Oh yeah, it's kind of in life. There's the time before that first Rogue River trip, and after, and it's definitely a bookmark in my life. And some good friends from Coos Bay, they invited me on a raft trip, and I just happened to have bought a fishing raft. And that was the first half of my life. Prior to this Rogue River trip, I was a fisherman. And then I got introduced to whitewater on the Rogue, and I just, I used to say it saved my life, but the reality was it gave me a new life.
Yeah,
it gave me another life.
A whole nother outlook. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And so it was that Rogue River trip. I realized in the middle of the whitewater, probably, right at Grave Creek, probably, that, wait a minute, when I'm in the whitewater, there's nothing else going on. It's me in the present moment, and there's a lot of value for me and for other veterans in that presence.
Exactly. I mean, that's what a lot of folks find with fishing too, is like when you're out fishing, especially like if you're fly fishing, you put so much focus on the actual fishing itself that you just forget about everything. And like, even if you have a very busy, stressful business life, you go get out on a river for an hour, you forget everything.
Absolutely.
It's like phone's not ringing, and you're really just wondering, it's like, is that next tug really going to be a big fish or not?
Oh yeah.
Let's go with a little easy forward. So I know you talked about how that kind of got you into the river and doing veterans programs. Expand on that a little bit. I know you're working with a couple other veterans programs, and tell me about the programs that you're with right now and kind of the programs that you offer to veterans that have interest.
So right now, and over the past few years, I've been working with Warrior Impact, a group here out of Oregon, out of Sisters, and they have a large organization called Save a Warrior Alumni, and this is kind of another conduit to which they can reach veterans. And they kind of reached out to me to help them get this program started, and it's been a huge success for them. They're bringing, probably 50 veterans a year downriver and sharing it with them, and it's 100% free to them. They just get to have that experience for the first time like I did, and hopefully it changes their life a little bit, And so with them, when we bought this company, what we wanted to do, since I'd been giving for a while, I wanted to make sure I maintained that in our business model.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
And so we dedicated the month of May to veterans and first responders, and with Warrior Impact and a local Roseburg veterans group called Fly Fishing Veterans, we were able to give 17 free seats out to veterans during the month of May.
Nice.
And that was really important to us. Life is getting good. The more I'm on the river, the better life is.
Right,
and so I want to share that with everybody.
For sure. And does Warrior Impact, do they have like a fundraising element, so they give some sort of compensation to the folks that are offering the trips, or is it all?
It's all volunteer.
All volunteer.
It's
so
all
you
veteran
basically
operated.
You're volunteering all of your time and money to make the trip happen, and it's just the experience that everybody's getting out of it.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
I always tell people it's kind of a selfish endeavor.
Right.
Because I feel like I get a lot out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I see that there's more to it than that, but it really is a good thing for me.
Right. Let's go with a couple forwards. So yeah, that's one of those things is everybody kind of has that conduit that got them started and gets them the hook. And for you, it was really the Warrior Impact trip that you went on and going down the Lower Rogue and actually starting to see that benefit for yourself as a veteran, and that, like you said, is a huge benefit for all the veterans that you're able to actually get out on those river trips, and that I think is actually, I think that's one of the things is that outdoor activities has been proven as really they are a very big conduit savior for veterans that are struggling with some of that re-entry time.
100%.
And yeah, like you just get out there, like you do see you get probably more publicity of the folks that are doing it with fly fishing, because fly fishing is a little bit more, I'd say, of an organized industry.
Sure.
But whitewater rafting is definitely just as big, or maybe even bigger, but it's just needing a common voice, right? Because a lot of this is like, if you don't have a common voice, you can be doing phenomenal things, but it's a matter of where's your microphone, where are you getting that story out there and letting people know what's going on.
You've got to be able to reach your audience.
But yeah, no, that's great. And I think that, are you seeing this where, I see this a little bit where some of the Warrior programs kind of partner up with other Warrior programs and help out and kind of use the regional resource, but there are national entities that you can kind of tie into. Have been any events like that have come in Oregon? Or is it more demographic?
It's more demographic. A couple deer heading across the river here. It seems like these organizations, and I think it's probably funding wise, they really kind of stick to themselves, but they're really good about getting the outreach in the region.
Right, okay, I gotcha.
But I don't see a lot of partnership working between the organizations, and I think, like on the river, it's a community, and we really should continue to work together. This isn't a zone where
we're not competing for anything. Yeah, let's go forward here a little bit.
We shouldn't be competing in this area. We all have the common goal and the common mission.
Right.
Trying to help each other out.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it going forward a little bit. All right, so picking it back up where we were is like, so yeah, it's like one of those things is that, the veteran organizations that are getting people out into the river, it would be nice if we start seeing more conduit. And maybe somebody sees this, if you have an organization that is nationally and you want to help that process happen, that is huge. But I think you're very, very key in diving on to the point that it's a funding issue, where the bigger the entity, the more the funding need.
Yep.
And the smaller the entity, the more that you can fulfill the whole thing with volunteers.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And we just actually did a piece earlier on our podcast about a program that they're putting together trying to save the Snake River access in Jackson Hole. And they are actually there's several organizations that are raising money to try and voluntarily take care of the river system as far as the put-ins, the bathrooms, the garbage, everything, because that funding is gone.
Yeah, and we still need to be stewards of the land, and we still care. We're still using it.
Exactly.
We're not going anywhere.
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
if it's up to us to take care of it, well, generally this community steps up and does so.
Exactly.
We take care of what
exactly.
needs to be
And
taken
that's
care
the
of.
thing is like there's just definitely so many river events with river cleanups and gatherings and stuff, and so that's important because you're offering that access for the veterans that see that, or a friend of a veteran that sees that and says, hey, this is something that I've tried out. Maybe this would be something that really will help you as well, right?
Yep. I always just hope that if nothing else, they just get a break, a day on the river.
Right.
Right. That's the only expectation is they just get out and, get a break.
Yeah.
There's
For sure.
There's a couple guys that are guiding down in the Lower Rogue right now that, they came out on veteran trips and they kind of got introduced to it, and
right.
And so it's definitely got life-changing abilities.
Absolutely, because it's like you had some boating experience before you did that Lower Rogue trip, and so you obviously were probably fast-tracked along into that commercial guiding because you had the boating experience already, and you found that, hey, this is a hook. This is something I really want to do.
Yeah.
But it is really important to tie into that point as far as if somebody actually goes on a multi-day river trip through a Warrior program and they do get excited about it and find that they just really feel a hole being filled, then it's like, yeah, they start pursuing it. And there are more and more of these guide schools that are up. And are there any programs yet? And if they're not, we probably need to see them develop here shortly. Is that actually are designed for that exact person?
We're working
Warrior,
towards it.
the Warrior program,
Yep.
the Warrior program that gives them the access to the river, but then those that actually really get excited about it and see that it really fills a void for them. Would you like to do this further?
Right.
Would you like to
Offer
do
them
this?
a path.
Would you like to do this as a commercial guide?
Yeah.
Like you can literally go on the river every day and share your story with anybody you want to.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one of those things that I talk about all the time with new guides is that, when you have a river guide, the running the river skill is one piece, but it's literally, you are an entertainer.
Yes.
It's like, it's almost like you're a stand-up comedian act, right? And you've got the most captive audience.
Just an
that you're ever
amateur
gonna
stand-up
have.
comedy
Yeah,
act.
you're an amateur stand-up comic. You're playing in all kinds of pubs all around the Pacific Northwest. And
Flopping dad jokes everywhere.
But you have the most captive audience that you're ever going to get.
Yeah.
More of a captive audience than you're going to get that comes into a bar, because
Yeah.
if they're in a pub, they could easily just walk out the door. But if they're in your raft, they're more than likely going to
It's
stay.
a bigger commitment if they want to go. It's a bigger
If
commitment.
they want out, they really got to want out because they got to take a full float. But yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I think that's a lot of it where, as we talk about how, for veterans, that's a big release. But I think it really does cross over to just, that's one of the things that people enjoy about going on the river, is giving up some of that responsibility, giving up that control, because when they're in the boat with a group of people, they're not in charge.
Right.
It's like the guide's in charge, and the guide might be a 19-year-old kid, but that kid is in charge.
He's in charge. He's got the most skill in the boat.
Exactly. And I think that is definitely something that I've seen just through the years. And as I've done with full disclosure on this podcast multiple times, I mean, I did commercially guide for, a little over 30 years. And before I ended up in the position that I'm in, and I really enjoyed it, and you've actually started kind of this new chapter where you've been able to actually moved from guiding to owning an outfitting company. So why don't you just kind of talk us through kind of how that happened, and then we want to dive into that a little bit because there may be folks that have interest in that, and part of what we're trying to do is let people grab a little tidbit that maybe they learn from just paying attention to this. Let's throw it a little forward as you start there.
So, this wasn't an opportunity that we were really looking for. I was pretty content guiding lodge trips for NOAAs. I don't know that you can find much of a better job than guiding 3-day
Definitely,
lodge
that's kind of where guides go to retire, I think.
Oh my goodness, and I kind of felt like I was going to be there for a long time. Why would you go anywhere, right?
Right.
But, it was a commute, and during the summer I was gone a lot. And after the military, I'd already kind of spent some time away from home. And,
Yep.
And so this opportunity came up that it just kind of came out of nowhere. And friends and family all helped us make this happen. And, being just a river rat at heart and then a guide for a while, I've always been told, you want to be the number one guide, not the owner of the company.
Right.
And so, I talked to some of my good friends, and they all encouraged me to go ahead and take this step. And it's been really interesting. We actually bought the company while we were in the Grand Canyon.
Oh, nice.
Over satellite messenger. We gave my daughter power of attorney.
Oh, wow.
And because we had already had this Grand Canyon trip planned when this popped
Right,
up.
of course. I mean, when you plan a Grand Canyon trip, it's not like you're going. I mean, it's a set deal.
People aren't going to let you not go.
Yeah,
I've got
exactly.
half the food or whatever,
Right.
So, it really was something we thought a lot about. We're really going to leave for a month, 30-day trip. We're really going to leave for a month right as we're buying this business. And it just seemed like the right thing to do as river people. We're going to do this.
Absolutely.
And so we came back, got off the Grand Canyon, and 2 days later signed the papers for the company.
Wow.
And it's been quite a transition, to go from guide to owner. Mm-hmm. And I'm still just a guide, though.
Right.
I'm still out there running trips every day.
Yep.
Every day, and it's my favorite thing to do still, and I'm still just enjoying sharing it with everybody. And I always tell people, I'm just a river rat here, and I had the opportunity to be in this position, but
right.
What do we do when we're off the river? We go back to a different river.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that's the thing is when you make that step and move into that ownership role, it's like you're saying, like you're still the guide. You still have that sense that you love being out on the river, but like a lot of what people don't see is all of the things that you've taken care of before you even get to the river, because you are the owner, and the fact that you're dealing with the food prep and the shuttle logistics and everything else prior to coming out on the river. And so it's almost like, like you were saying earlier, how everybody the expectation is that everything comes off without a hook, and it's just completely just like clockwork. And so, but you are not only the person that's pulling that off, but then you are also the person that is pulling off the behind the scenes piece to make that all happen. And so as with that in mind, what are some of the challenges that have come up that were maybe not necessarily surprises, but things that you didn't anticipate would be as much of a big challenge?
The logistics is always an issue. The shuttles are always an issue.
Oh, yeah.
Being on time and all these things are always an issue, and it continues to be, one of the bigger challenges that we face, especially on the North Umpqua with no service where we're rafting.
Right.
There's no service to put in. And in this day and age, people a lot of times just skim real quick through an email, and they maybe miss the part that says, meet here.
Right.
So that's been a real challenge for us to be able to communicate our expectations clearly to people.
Right, that you will not have a service. You will not be able to call us. You will be on a state highway, but you will be completely off the grid.
Yes. And so, for us, we've really had to work through that. And as a river guide, every time the river flow changes, I want to change the times.
Right.
And I've learned I can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just like what you're saying, how you have to have checklists, and you have to be very, very rigid on that checklist piece, but you also have to set that time, and it stays that way.
Stays that way.
Many years ago on the Upper Klamath, before it has gone through its evolution, we were running off a hydroelectric peak power plant, And also a lot of the companies were basically providing trips to folks that were down in visiting the area to go to Shakespeare. And so you kind of had to stay on that timeline, because as much as your guests wanted to go out on the river, have a wonderful, class 3-4 run on the Upper Klamath, tons of excitement, excellent whitewater, they wanted to be back in town by 5 o'clock. And so
not
they could
necessarily river time.
Yeah, so they could take a shower, go to dinner, go to a play, and just like that rigid schedule was something that everybody kind of dealt with. And then we actually had some time with Pacificor where it was the first time as outfitters we really got organized, because they started really messing with the flows.
Oh.
And they started trying to match supply and demand, and they wanted to peak the generators at like 4 and 5 in the afternoon. And that doesn't really fit into our schedule.
Doesn't work.
So, but also as business owners and as outfitters, we're most of us are pretty scrappy and pretty resourceful. And you don't sweat the stuff you don't have any control over. But if it's the fact that you only have fish flow water until 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then you go, okay, well, those are the cards we're dealt. How do we deal with that?
Sunset trips.
And so we literally figured out that we could, one, run the entire upper section of the river on fish flow and run down to Caldera, pull over, have a nice leisurely long lunch. And basically while we were having that leisurely long lunch, the guides are literally watching the water to see if they can move it into okay, we're gonna hustle up here and get out of here.
Let's get on the
bubble.
bubble.
Okay, I think we're gonna do another story. So and so is gonna take everybody on a nature walk.
Right.
We're gonna go, because you're basically just watching all these things, going, all right, wait a minute, we got to watch for it. And but the biggest piece that we had to do, let's go with a little forward, is that we had to adjust our timeline, and then we had to sell it, because we kind of had to tell folks that, yeah, if you have a play coming up that night, then maybe this is not the trip for you.
Right.
That's good right there. And so, because that was kind of one of the things. And so you have to kind of identify that, setting the expectation that, it's possible that we're back to town by 6 or 7, but it's also a possibility that we don't get water until 5:30. And, so that's putting us back to town at 8:30.
Yeah, full disclosure.
And so I think that that's something that, the guests, as much as they'll gripe about it, they like the full transparency. They don't want the surprises. And so maybe in your situation, like you said, people probably aren't even thinking that we're going to be out of service, where, they got to, the instructions got to come in on a pigeon.
There's a lot of details that matter, and sometimes, we're busy and we don't quite look at all the details.
Yep.
And they matter. You talk about things being out of our control in the dam and things. We've been able to launch up at Soda Springs all year this year because of our big high flow this winter. It blew out the big river-wide log. But, we're up there operating with Pacific Power, and we're in their, zone.
Right.
So we came in there not too long ago, and there's big trucks blocking the road, and they're shooting fish rock in below the dam and doing, their obligation to make sure there's habitat and things.
Right.
So here we are, ready to launch, but we're just hanging out waiting for all the rock to get dumped in the river, and then they'll get out of our way, and it worked both ways, and you just have to flex. And that's part of the river trip. That's part of it.
And that's one of the things, like we talked a few different episodes with folks about, kind of really embracing the things that you have control over and not really stressing over the things you don't have control over. And I think that, just going through COVID definitely helped a lot of us kind of be very, very resourceful and very nimble.
Absolutely.
And you got to be ready to pivot. And it's like, if the flows change, if the weather changes, around here, it's like we have a little wood right here. Let's knock on that right there.
Yeah.
But, it's the forest fire bit because we're out here in the West, and, it's a beautiful sunny day today, and that's great. But we don't have control over that.
Right.
And, there's fires all around us, and the wind could change and just blow the smoke in here. And it's just like instantly, boom. We have no control over that. We just kind of have to go with that.
Like you say, we're a scrappy bunch, though, and we're going to go down the river if we can find a way.
Let's go a little forward. Yeah, and I think a lot of that too is kind of going to that community bit to kind of switch gears on it a little bit, is that, we've seen multiple fires in in the Rogue Canyon, and it has definitely, set a schedule and dictated what we can and cannot do because of fires in the Rogue Canyon. And we had Mario Lodge that was threatened at one point, almost burning. Then that's where we had the river ranger step in and close the river for a time period there. I remember in 2005, which was the first season that I was actually guiding in the Lower Canyon, the river just got shut down. Just instantly, just boom, river shut down. Like we had the sheriff floating down behind us going, "Get out of here, it's done." And then, at that point, the river ranger of the time, the BLM ranger, literally was running the hazard stretch of the river multiple times, just trying to see is it safe enough, can we let people in? And I think every person that's boated down the Lower Rogue for a long period of time has been at spots where they come up to a checkpoint and basically hold up here so we can get this helicopter in.
Yes.
Let's go a little forward. So yeah, that's definitely a thing on the road. That's good right there. And it's also just a thing on most rivers in the West where, they have to deal with a lot of that on the Salmon River as well. And on the middle fork of the Salmon, there's a lot of that kind of thing. Let's go forward.
Yeah, we sure didn't expect to deal with fire our first season. Last year, half of our main run got shut down because of the Pine Bench fire, part of Diamond Complex fires.
Right.
And, that's the third fire in 6 years, and you think, oh, we're safe, but there's still plenty more.
Yeah, it's just one of those things is that, keep going forward, is that one of those things that we realize is that we just do not have much control over a lot of those pieces.
Regardless of what we like to think.
Regardless of what we like to think, that's just one of those pieces that we definitely kind of have to remain nimble and be ready to just make that adjustment on one way or another. And so one of the other things that does come up for a lot of outfitters is just kind of how are you going about kind of telling that story? Like obviously you guys are new outfitters, and are you working with local travel entities, or how are you going about trying to getting your company?
So right now it's mostly a lot of social media and Google. The data says that Google's providing about 70% of our site. And so, we're focusing on that. The new Google business profiles seem to be kind of really taking over things. And so we're really pushing ourselves out that way. And then, kind of letting these trips speak for themselves. We really pride ourselves on the professionalism and the knowledge and the skill we bring to every single trip that we do. And so we're seeing those results already in our second year of people understanding what kind of a trip we're putting on. And they like that, it's a veteran-owned and operated. They get to meet me and my wife out there every day, and we bring a very different flair. Each of us has our own way. And then they talk to our daughter on the phones when they're booking the trips, and they get to know us, and we get to know them, and that's one of our favorite things.
Absolutely. And it's a lot of that, there are so many parts of outfitting that is just developing that relationship. And you have that relationship with the customer, and you get that time with them on the water. And I've been out of guiding for the last time I guided a boat down the river was probably 15 years ago. And there are people that I have taken down the river that still reach out to me. And they just reach out to me and ask me, "Hey, we're going on this river, so-and-so, do you know anybody?"
Yes.
Because they've developed that rapport with you, and so kind of like what we were talking about is as you develop your following, you can move them to other river areas.
Absolutely.
Because that's where we see outfits that kind of grow, where they have a big stronghold in one specific area, but then they grow into, hey, there's an opportunity coming up, just like how this opportunity came up for you on the Umpqua.
Yeah.
There's opportunities that come up on river systems all over the country, all over the West. If there's a mountainous region, there's a river community there as well. And yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It's like in the Lower Rogue Canyon, we all know that there's there's kind of a transitional period that comes about because a lot of those outfitters have been doing it for 30, 40 years. And if they don't have a head guide that they're bringing in that's going to take over the fold, then they're kind of like who's that person that's going to that we're going to get that interest of? And it takes a unique person to be an outfitter. And so it is one of those industries that does tend to kind of hire their succession from within.
Right.
Because, it's like, there's few incidents that we've seen over the years of people that come in and buy an outfitting company with some investors and such, and they maybe don't have that much river experience. And they have a little different learning curve.
Sure they do.
Where they might have really good business sense, but the river sense is tough for them.
Yes.
And so you've come in with the river sense. So that river piece is pretty much takes care of itself. As long as you're out there and you have your trained guides, that piece is probably your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
It's like, but it's the booking and the logistics and all that, because the transportation of people is just like that's the biggest.
That's where my
exposure.
daughter's the savior. She has picked up that ball and just taken it and run with it, and she's doing a great job. And
Nice.
She's absolutely doing the piece of the pie that I don't want to eat.
Right.
I don't want to eat. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
I just want to know it's handled.
Yep, and the booking and the vetting and all of that is there's so much to that, and that is something where you are also seeing there are advances that are happening. There's better reservation systems. There's types of systems like that where like you have your daughter who can work the office and basically do the bookings, but probably both of us know people that are just doing the fishing side and they're doing it all on their own.
Yeah.
And for me, a real pet peeve is kind of like hang up your phone and fish. It's like if I hire a guide, I don't necessarily expect that guide to be on the phone talking to another customer on my day.
Yeah, no.
Right? And so we float down the river a lot, and you see guides in the boat and they're talking on their phone. And it's like, I understand it, but it's like, come on. Unless you're actually talking to another guide boat, just trying to get intel to make that fishing experience better for those people that are in your boat, you probably should have a really good booking system that just kind of takes them to the piece they need to be. And hey, I'll
focus on your trip.
Focus on the people that are there. Because like we said, it's all about the network. Yeah. So it's about literally being there with those people, providing that experience, providing that activity, and in turn, you're cultivating that long-term customer.
It's like you're saying, when we started our fishing, we're building that customer base. We expect to build relationships.
Right.
Certainly there's people that are just traveling through, but a lot of what we're looking for is just to build those relationships so we can fish with these fishermen for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, and that's one of those things too, is that it is beneficial to have kind of that alternate season offering, right? So when not every company has that ability to offer hey, if you're here on this time of year, check this out. Yeah. But some of the bigger ones, they're like offering year-round activities, and some of them are actually traveling to other parts of the world to offer trips.
Right.
They're hosting stuff that's in different countries and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so it is one of those things where we've talked a bit about, and I'd like to get your take on this, is because river guiding is actually kind of it's like a gypsy skill. You have a lot of opportunity to travel and do various rivers and just take that ability to where it's like, hey, the boat piece, how to run the river, let's learn this new river and go. And sometimes maybe you don't even go that you get paid for, but you get to go on the trip for free. And so like you can use that for ways to broaden your experience. And so like, do you have any experience with that, or any trips that have come about kind of that way? Or
I've had the opportunity to go, just being a part of the guide community, on a bunch of what we just call guide vacations that are on amazing rivers. The Grand Canyon's probably the one that had the most effect on me.
Right.
With the NOLA's guys, the guys that we've talked about a little bit that are getting ready to step out of the industry.
Exactly.
You know, they're getting ready to step out of the industry, and it's an opportunity that I was given. They said, here's how this works.
Yeah.
But now you got to take us until we're done, you know?
Right.
And so, you know, it feels like a gift, but it's also this huge, like, workload. Like, oh, yeah, along with this is all these spreadsheets. But, you know, I've spent 120 days at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And so without that piece being offered, I wouldn't be able to go and do those kind of things.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I know my kids constantly ask me, like, all right, Dad, as you get older, like, I mean, do we need to be next to a river or next to the mountains? And I'm like, well, you know, more than likely, I'm going to be able to float and fish a lot longer than I'm going to be able to ski down the mountain. So,
right.
You know, I think the rivers, and then they kind of segue that right into, like, okay, well, who's going to row crotchety Dad down the river, you know? But it's one of those things.
Whoever you pick.
Exactly. Yeah. Whoever I say, let's go.
Let's go.
Be happy about it and let's go do it. Exactly. So
river time is good.
Exactly. One of those things that I want to make sure we touch base before we wrap up here is that you know, you have been on the river for many years and seen a lot of different river trips. If you can share with the folks just maybe one episode that was definitely one of those things that you were just like, when it all was done, you're like, whoa, that was pretty sketchy. You know, give us one of those, and then we'll follow it up with kind of a feel-good story of any river system.
So I have a perfect story for this. So we were in Guatemala. I think it was in 2012, and we were running the Cahabon, I believe, and we had to shuttle around this big Class 6 rapid. They were gonna blow the mountainside, build the dam, and do all this stuff. Well, They blew the mountainside but never built the dam, and so we had to portage around it. Well, all the bridges in Guatemala were a little sketchy. So we all pile in one van, and the truck carries all the gear. We show up to the put-in, and the truck with all the gear never shows up. Half hour later, we end up walking back up the road, and well, there's our truck with all our rafts on the frame, fell through the wooden decks of the bridge. And these guys are out there like it's just, you know, it's Wednesday, it's hump day. And they've got their little bottle jack, and they're jacking that truck up, putting a rock, jacking the rock up, putting a rock. Finally, they got it up, back onto the deck of the bridge, pushed it over, landed on the deck of the bridge, and drove, and we went and put in. And I kind of told myself after that, I'm done walking across these bridges, I'll raft under them.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that I don't have any experience boating in other countries. But that is one of those things that I find more and more as I talk with folks, is like that is one of those just ultimate challenges where, like, going to a different country where, yes, the boat is very similar and the river is similar, but everything else, that's where it ends. It stops right there.
Absolutely. Yep, this is your safe place and what you know, but everything else is foreign.
Exactly. Excellent. Yeah. And then how about something that's actually more on the humorous side? What is give me one event of something that just like you reference it often because it's just one of those where it's just like unbelievable.
I got one. So we've got this place on the north Umpqua called Eagle Pool next to Eagle Rock Campground, and as we come down into that, we often talk about you might see bald eagles and osprey up in the trees fishing this pool. And I had a grandfather and grandson in the boat with me, and I'm saying the story as I do every trip we go down, and I see it, a bald eagle, and I say, oh, look, bald eagle. And as soon as I pointed it out, I realized something's off about this bald eagle. And it's, you know, doing its thing, coming right upriver at us, and I realized pretty quickly, oh no, this is a crow with a dinner roll in its beak. And so it looks just like a bald eagle flying at us. And so the grandson looks back at me with a big smile, and he says, that's not a bald eagle, that's a bread eagle. It's the only one I've ever seen. It's the only one I've ever seen. Cracked me up.
Looking out for the bread eagle.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing, is like you do get kind of tuned into that, and like sometimes like some of the most phenomenal acts that we get to see out on the river is kind of the bald eagle and the osprey battle.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when they're going after each other, and just like sometimes that just happens like right over your head, and you're just like, oh my gosh, is this something that I've just witnessed, you know? And they're dive bombing each other and kind of thing, and you're just like, whoa.
Putting on good air shows.
And then, you know, and like every once in a while too, I've had this happen a few times, is where either an osprey or an eagle will dive out in front of you to get a fish, but then I don't know for what reason, but, and somebody can maybe comment, let me know, but they tend to fly up the waterway. Like they don't just fly off to the side and land on the ground. They fly up the waterway while they're manipulating that fish, trying to get it aerodynamic to fly with their bodies. And every once in a while, they just do like this brushback, just like right over your boat. And everybody in the boat's just like, whoa! Yeah. You know?
I always figure it's a victory lap.
Right.
You know, they're showing off. They're proud.
They're proud.
I love it. I love it. We had an opportunity just the other day to watch some osprey do some things that we don't see them do very often. And they came right down on the river and just skimmed their feet for probably 25 yards. And I figured washing their talons off after a catch, probably.
Also, I mean, I think they're fishing from way up there. And so they're looking, and then they come down. If that little fish they thought they saw moves, then they just kind of pull up, and they cruise it for
Touch
a little
and
bit.
go.
Cruise it for a little bit. I would imagine they're just kind of fishing the run a little bit, taking a look. But yeah, it's absolutely, I mean, the nature is one of those things that absolutely, when you get out on the river, like we said, you have that ability to let go. But then also just the fact that no matter what river it is, the river has its own ecosystem, and there's just phenomenal amount of wildlife that you get to see. And
we get to
like
be a
we
part of
were
it.
just, I mean, we were coming down at the very beginning there, and a couple deer just went across the river and up the bank, you know. Like, I mean, it would be great if they would have happened right behind us.
Right
but,
behind
you know,
us,
it's one of those things where we witness it, it's like, wow, we can see it, but, you know, it's out there in front of us. And just the other day I was out here, and we had a drift boat down in front of us, and he boated up just a beautiful salmon.
Oh, cool.
You know, and we were just kind of doing our piece, trying to have our interview, try to swing the boat around just to kind of see him back there behind us, netting the fish and high-fiving, you know. It was just kind of one of those pieces.
Yeah, it's always more than you expect when you get on the river.
Absolutely. Well, Dustin, if you would like to let folks know kind of where they can find you, we will actually include links in this, but just let folks know where the best way to find you is if they want to come out and explore the river with you here in the Umpqua Valley, and then we'll kind of start wrapping it up.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the best way to reach is just right through our website, umpquarivers.com. And we're really active on Facebook, and we're working on TikTok and Instagram and Google, you know, Google Business Profile. So we try and make it easy for you to get a hold of us. And if you have any questions, just give us a ring. Everything's right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They give you a ring and they'll get a hold of your daughter.
Yeah, and you'll talk to the family. You'll talk to Cara. And if you don't talk to Cara, you'll talk to Tony, my wife. And if you're real lucky, you might get me. But
there
I'm
you go.
on the river.
There you go. There you go. Well, excellent. Dustin, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody here for watching. And if you do enjoy this episode, please share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your river community. Spread the word. We are definitely just out here to tell some river stories, maybe give you a little tidbit. And if you have interest in getting out on the river, reach out to Dustin or reach out to a river outfitter in your area. Get that first trip on the water. And as Warren Miller used to say, if you don't go on the river today, you're just going to be 1 year older when you finally do. So, quoting Warren Miller for that one. But please, stay safe out there. Get on the river. Be patient. Be calm. We'll see you on the river. If you'd like to check out anything else to do with Sawyer Paddles and Oars, check us out at paddlesandoars.com, and we'll see you next time.
See you on the river.
All right, and it won't start till we get out in the rapid there.
All right.
Let's go with a little forward. And so the way this works is basically rapid questions in the rapid is just me firing off a bunch of questions to you, and you answer them as quick as you can, first thing that comes to your mind, and you either answer it or you say pass.
All right.
All right, and that's basically it. We'll run all the way from here just down to the bottom of the rapid here, and I'll tell you when it starts. It's something that we've been doing with every guide that I take out here, and it's been pretty fun, and just kind of how it just out of a little sidebar that we're going. So, all right, here we go. We are going into rapid questions in the rapid, and we are going to fire off right now. Dustin, what is your favorite color?
Blue.
What is the most popular river that you've ever guided on?
Wild and Scenic Road.
What is your favorite fishing hole?
I will not reveal that.
If you tell me you would have to kill me. What's your favorite type of boat?
Oh, I like Airs right now.
Excellent. Ours is a raft. What type of drift boat would you prefer? If you had your choice of many.
I like my old wooden drift boat. Right now I'm running an old Tommy No boat built right up there in the Mackenzie.
Nice, nice. If you were to choose one mountain range to live in for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Well, here I am at home in the Cascades.
In the Cascades. Excellent. What's your favorite rapid on the Grand Canyon?
Lava.
Excellent. What's your favorite camp on the Grand Canyon?
Oh, man. I like Blacktail.
Excellent.
Blacktail.
What's your favorite rapid on the Lower Road?
Upper Black.
Upper Black. And what is your favorite camp on the Lower Road?
Missouri.
Missouri. Excellent. And now, if you were to actually describe the North Umpqua River in one word, what would that be?
Busy.
Repeat?
Busy.
Busy.
It will.
That's it in a nutshell. If you want to describe the Umpqua in one word, busy. Thank you very much, Dustin. That is
Thank
Rapid
you.
Questions in the Rapid.
Love it.
That is a wrap.
Awesome.